Hello, I'm Melashvili and you're watching TVP World Talks, where every word matters. The political crisis in Georgia shows no signs of abating, with the latest episode of the ongoing tale of democratic backsliding featuring 49 opposition lawmakers stripped of their mandates. This development came after the lawmakers in question decided to boycott the country's legislature amidst widespread accusations of major irregularities in the course of recent elections, which saw the ruling pro-Russian Georgian Dream Party tighten its grip on power. So will the current deadlock escalate even further? Joining us now is George Melashvili, president at the Europe-Georgia Institute. Hello and welcome to TVP World.
Good morning and thank you for the invitation.
So this decision to essentially strip 49 lawmakers of the democratic mandate, to what extent does it escalate a crisis that has already been brewing for a couple of months?
Well, it is obviously a continuation of the crisis that has been going on for a while. The opposition parties, the four big coalitions in Georgia, which comprise the entirety of the pro-Western, pro-democratic opposition in this country, have boycotted the results of the election because they have been marred by significant irregularities, according to the OSCE report, according to any international observers report, and so they have not participated in the work of the legislature after the election. Also, the video that we're witnessing right now on the screen, it is the selection of Georgia's new so-called president, Melashvili, who was selected by a one-party procedure without any opposition participation. So this selection has also been a very big issue for all the opposition parties. At this moment, we have the coalition Strong Georgia, Coalition for Change, and also the United National Movement, three big opposition coalitions expelled from the parliament. But that's only a part of what's going on in Georgia right now. Recently, the Georgian Dream has introduced a bunch of changes, all of them specifically targeting to impact citizens' rights on free expression of speech. For example, imprisonments have been introduced and increased for criticizing the government on social media, for insulting political figures. The so-called calls for violence have become punishable to up to 3 years in prison, and police powers have been widely expanded, ban on temporary structures at all protests have been introduced, and in general, we're witnessing the consolidation of authoritarian rule. And in general, this situation is very worrisome. Obviously, the protest has been going on for 70 days already, and Rustaveli Avenue, the main avenue in Georgia, has been closed for 70 days consequently in the evening. So that's the situation that we have right now. Opposition figures, MPs, the people who boycotted the work of the parliament, of course, are directly affected, as well as ordinary Georgian citizens who are being fined with 2,000, 3,000 euros simply for standing and attending protests.
So would you say that the decision to boycott the parliament following these elections, was this the only choice that could have been made? Because obviously it does send a powerful message, i.e. we consider these elections to be fraudulent, we do not accept them, we don't want to take part in this. However, this has also effectively given the current government an argument. Look, they were not willing to participate anyway, so we've taken away their mandates because they were not using them. In retrospect, was this the optimum choice in this situation?
Well, taking away mandates of the opposition is not how the democratic system should be working. That's obviously. When you have an election which was marred by such tremendous irregularities, obviously the opposition needed to react. And we've seen this reaction twofold. The first one was the reaction of the people at Rustaveli Avenue, the people who are protesting for 70 days already. And the second one was, of course, this boycott of the parliamentary work. Because if the parliament is illegitimate, as opposition is saying. In that case, it means that they obviously should not be participating. So there was literally no other choice for the opposition parties to do. The third component, international pressure, when you're dealing with a pro-Russian, pro-Kremlin regime in Georgia, which is trying to solidify its power, is obviously international pressure. And that's a component that we have been missing most for a very long time. The European Union has not been very strong in its responses because of two member countries who have been blocking any significant measures from the European Union, and we know this. So right now, what we're dealing with is an attempt of a constitutional coup d'etat from the Georgian Dream Party, which is a party openly aligning itself with the Kremlin. The Georgians, we are protesting for 70 days. We're utilizing all the squeezing rights to protest and assembly we have right now. But that's definitely, unfortunately, squeezing in, and the government is trying to consolidate authoritarian regime. So it's not just about taking away the mandates from the opposition. It's fully eliminating and expelling the opposition from any parliamentary work. Now, Georgian Dream becomes a one-party parliament. They have huge problems with the mandates. They will soon not be able to appoint judges of the Constitutional Court because you need 90 votes for that. You need at least a quorum for specific issues that this parliament will not be able to provide. And that's obviously when we're moving from a political crisis to a constitutional crisis. And all of it is intertwined and interconnected. So I do agree with the point that opposition simply did not have any other choice. They're trying to utilize all the measures at their disposal, but for now, that was the only thing that they could do.
So you've mentioned international sanctions. How far should these sanctions go, given that they, up to now, were focused mostly on individuals such as Bidzina Ivanishvili, the oligarch who founded Georgian Dream and remains its informal leader? Given that we have ample evidence of abuses of power, of election fraud, people, as you said, being arrested, being beaten up on the streets during protests. Should these sanctions go beyond targeted penalties, targeted measures directed against individuals from the Georgian Dream Party, and perhaps move into the economic realm? Or would that be counterproductive? What do you think?
So we should be very careful and targeted while using the sanctions. The problem with the sanctions is that even though some of them have been introduced, these are only half measures. And again, these were the measures introduced by the United States, not the European Union, which unfortunately was incapable of introducing efficient and effective measures. What needs to be done is to increase pressure on the Georgian Dream itself, on the key figures, on the key enablers of the regime, and that is the right way to do. At this point of time, the sanctions should not be used against the people of Georgia, because these are the people who are defending our European choice and who are defending Georgia's future. And that's why targeting specifically high-level officials of the Georgian Dream, the businessmen who are enabling these atrocities that we're witnessing in the streets, is the key, and that's the way how it should be done on a European level. We've seen attempts from the Weimar Triangle, from Poland, Germany, and France, and we need to see many more of these attempts, much bigger pressure, and that's the only way to deal with this situation at this point of time.
What do you think the countries that you've mentioned, the two countries in the European Union, it's not difficult to guess which countries these are opposing the imposition of sanctions? This does not really affect their own interests directly. We know that these countries have also been engaged in debates concerning the energy sector, resources from the Russian Federation, and so on. Now, this doesn't affect them in such a direct way. So why are they opposing the decision to slap sanctions on the Georgian Dream Party?
There has long been a very specific partnership between authoritarian or authoritarian-leaning regimes, whether in the European Union or outside the EU. These countries, they have vast interest in increasing authoritarian tendencies. They don't care about democracy, they don't care about human rights, and honestly, they don't even care about the European project unless it provides direct benefits to them. So for these countries, it's not about values. It's about very specific transactional exchange. And I would even say that there might be some corruption deals even between the Georgian Dream regime and those countries. So that's very obvious. They're trying to sabotage all the measures from the European Union just simply for the sake of authoritarian cooperation, just for the sake of this regime, which definitely has also monetary gains from this relationship and from this so-called partnership.
Would you say that ideologically there is any proximity? I mean, it's easier to say this in the case of Viktor Orban, since the Georgian Dream Party also positions itself as a conservative traditionalist party. With Mr. Fico and his government, though, the link arguably is a bit less easy to trace, isn't it?
I'm always smiling when I'm hearing about this traditionalist conservative stuff. Georgian Dream is not a conservative party. It's a party that has absolutely zero values. Georgian Dream was part of the Party of European Socialists at the very beginning, and the day when the Party of European Socialists was going to expel them for anti-democratic steps, the law, the Russian law, as we call it in Georgia, on foreign agents, they simply left this organization one day before they were going to be expelled. So it's not about values, it's not about conservatism. Georgian Dream is a populist party. They will take any ideology in the world and they will try to spin it simply to remain in power. So it's not about conservatism, it's not about liberalism, it's simply about control, it's about attempts to control their own population, to eliminate free media, and also to stay in power at all costs. So it's not about conservatism, really.
So as you're saying, authoritarian-leaning parties and leaders need to maintain a degree of ideological flexibility, apparently. George Melashvili was our guest today here on TVP World. Thank you very much for joining us and for sharing your insight.
Thank you.
And I'm Jonasz Rewinski. You're watching TVP World. Please stay with us for more latest news and updates.